o'clock? We're there. Okay, is everybody here that's supposed to be? Ed, we're not sure about it, I take it. D, Bill is here. And, okay.
Yeah, he came
Oh,
in
great.
within 30 seconds.
No, good have six. My first thing I want to say, if any of you have not seen this, it's on the newsstands. This copy is available for
$16.99. We have copies of those. It's too big to email. But anybody that wants one,
I think it'd be well worth your while, particularly on the UAS committee. But I think board members that have a lot of good background information, not a lot of specifics, you know, on this particular place or that particular program. It's just kind of like a general thing. This university, that area, and it kind of covered civilian uses, military uses, and all the way down to the toys. And so, I thought it was really good background information.
and then we did everything we could to find copies, and you can't buy them.
Well, this one, over in California bookstore.
We've called Time, we've called all the different publishers, and, you know, we've called Hastings and Barnes and Nobles, and they're like, you know, it's one of these supplements that they put out. So you find it on the newsstand or you're out of luck.
It's supposed to be on, it's set on a display till September, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, display till September 27th.
I was going to print them out for the board for the board meeting tonight, but we're not having a board meeting now, so
Yeah,
but we'll have them.
I think, we can even pass this copy around,
Okay.
or
I'll just print it
the
out.
ones you have, or
Yeah.
whatever, you know. I think it's well worth the perusal.
Okay.
We gotta wait to use that version.
Craig, if you bring them up, you just send out an email with a top line.
Okay.
Too big a document to email.
Okay. I'll do that.
We're all out, most of us are retired, not wandering around, killing time between meals.
Yeah, I don't know. Hey, put on mine, but anyway, yeah. And, okay, this is the strategy committee. Our agenda item is to review and approve a request for proposal for contract legal services for Yuma County Airport Authority. I think a lot of you should have in your background material, should have the work that the staff has done on developing the RFQ and the way we would go about it, the evaluation process. So I thought that you did a really good job there.
Mr. Chairman, I didn't receive it. It's all right.
We're having copies printed up right now. It'll be in front of you in just a second.
Oh, okay. And I think that this will be very useful when it comes time to evaluate the returns from the, we call this an RFP and RFQ.
This will be an RFP because we're actually asking for some information.
So RFQ does not involve pricing, P involves pricing.
But it's kind of a hybrid, you know, on this, because
Yeah.
we're using the same procedures we use in an RFQ for all of our professional services. But because it's not engineering, it's legal to go ahead and ask for pricing, and so we do.
Okay. And as you know, the last meeting, we asked Craig to initiate this. And so and the idea was that can we come up with a situation where we can separate our legal expenses into two buckets, if you will. One of them is extraordinary expenses that would come up in the normal course of doing their own thing. Would come up in the course of doing business where there was a dispute over a contract or whatever it might be. And the normal course, or I should have used the normal course of business would be attendance at board meetings, review of contracts, this sort of thing that is somewhat predictable. And so we felt that if we could come up with a situation where we could come up with a response from an attorney to handle the predictable things, then we could put that in the budget. And it was still the extraordinary events off budget, but that was always the case. And so as I look through this, it looks like you've done a very, very good job in delineating, sending the thing out, the scope of work, I think, is important, so that we know exactly what we're asking somebody to do. And then there was criteria for evaluating the responses, so that we get all this stuff back, much like our selection committee, where you get stuff back and you got to decide who has best responded to your RFP and who you should select. And so anyway, all of that there remains. Since that time, it has come to my attention that we may be outside of the scope, I don't want to use the word scope of authority of our committee. And so I've been asked to discuss that with you. Are we within the confines of what the strategy committee should be doing with this proposal? Any discussion? Bill?
Well, as I indicated at the last meeting, I think this is an item for the full board. And I realize before anybody is engaged, it would go to the full board. Or at least I guess it. I haven't read this, as I said. I don't know what the selection process is, and I don't really want to bog the meeting down today by going through all of this. But it strikes me that the strategy committee deals with how to use the facilities, physical facilities of the airport, and the direction that the airport takes. The engagement of a law firm the law firm is there for the board, and the board then directs the law firm to coordinate with the staff on legal matters that come up to it. But the law firm is primarily the board. So I don't know, I'm not sure outside the scope, but the committees are loosely enough established that we probably could discuss that if we wanted to. I do think, though, that with the ongoing lawsuits that we have with the executive, with the director leaving and being replaced in however many months, and with the fact that I'm not sure, I don't feel personally as a member of this committee that I've gotten the direction that I would feel comfortable with from the full board as to, yes, this is what we want you to do. So, and I would be very much against moving forward with this process until such time as the board reviews it and blesses it or not. If we were going to start sending out RFQs prior to the board, and as you know, I'm no longer a member of the board, but if I were, I'd be upset that it was done prior to the board. I think this is a board function, not just a committee. That's my own personal.
Steve?
You know, I got to give you one, 2 cents.
That's what you're here for.
First question that this committee addressed was, should there be a contract for services? Should it be a fee for service with a limited time frame? The answer is yes. So we move forward with a request to take a look at an RFP. If you take a look at the content of the RFP, and that's the second question, is what do we expect from legal counsel? The RFP content describes in detail what the authority would be looking for in regards to a counsel and the services that they would provide. The one caveat that I would recommend for the proposal is that it's very clear that the board of directors sets the direction on the legal services and the contract therein. However, the day-to-day administration and management and communications is through the director. as the, if you will, the highest staff member that reports directly to the board. He is our liaison, if you will, to all of this. So there's a, I think that needs to be clarified. And that's where we stop as a strategy committee. We identify, yes, there should be a contract, define that period of time, should be fee for services, what are those services, how administratively the communication is handled from the subcontractor, in this case the lawyer, or the legal company, if you will, partner. And that's it, we're done. We can recommend to the full board consideration of the contract and of the requirements within.
The scope? Yeah.
Yes, for consideration and discussion and public, I believe, comment on that. And then make a decision, move forward. It has nothing to do with do we like our current council or not. It has nothing to do with that. It's we got to define what they are, bid it out, and let the best council propose it.
Okay. Dan?
When we left both the last meeting and the board meeting that followed that, and then with little I've seen in this document, it seems, and Dean brought it up, when he spoke of the board's needs for legal oversight, guidance, thoughts, and what the airport needs on a day-to-day basis for its administration of the goals of the board. Could be two very different things, and we don't want those two things competing. So it seems to me that, one, we need to understand in our own processes what those thresholds are. Now, we can certainly see that when entering a lease agreement, this is just an example from we enter a lease agreement with a company, with somebody that wants to provide services on the airport. That falls through. Well, the execution of the lease and the document oversight by legal services seems to me to be within the parameters of the administrative function of the airport. Once there's a failing, then we end up in these lawsuits. And then now that becomes elevated. It's no longer a pure administrative process that needs to be guided through the legal hoops of the state. We end up then with issues that sometimes intrude on the private lives of board members, into their personal, their business lives. We've got insurance companies that are involved. We've got, and they certainly have their legal proceedings and their legal professionals, and then the board needs their legal guidance. I don't think that the legal guidance that was originally provided to the airport on the admin side really has the same play as the other two legal processes, our own legal guidance to protect the board, and then the insurance company on that side. And I think we need to clearly understand it. The airport clearly needs legal, aviation legal guidance in its day-to-day function. How do we get that to them? We have been basically tasking through because the airport's grown a lot. And now we might be at another threshold. I'm not saying we are. I'm saying we need to look at that. Are we at this next threshold where we need to go from legal guidance that satisfies the needs of the airport administratively and the needs of the board on its function? Or maybe we are at a time that it would be best that we have legal administrative guidance available directly to the airport in some manner. This is certainly one of them. And the board has its own, and that's two separate budgets. We anticipate that the board legal guidance is going to represent the board even in a court. but I don't think we expect the admin legal guidance, the airport legal guidance, the one that says, yeah, this contract looks like it fits all the hoops of the state, to be anything but a witness possibly in testimony, but certainly not our advocate in a court proceedings. And to me, that's the way, in my mind, I'm dividing legal guidance that you might hire in your business, either with your own employee or with legal guidance from a law office at the business level, is somewhat different than hiring somebody to represent you possibly in a court issue where they actually are representing you. Does this document, it appears to, but it appears to me that this document provides the airport's admin needs and really doesn't intrude on the board's legal needs. And I think we should, I would like to consider that how we approach the future of our legal requirements as two separate requirements. Because there might be a time that somebody on the board raises an issue saying, you know, I don't know if that lease or that whatever obligation we got into on the admin side is in our overall best interest. Because the staff is trying very hard at the ground level to get their job done. And every once in a while, sometimes things do happen where you run into a situation where we really shouldn't have bought that way, or we really should have made a different consideration on, I don't know, there might be sources of grant money that you might want to stay away from. I've been told to stay away from certain sources of grant money in some of my other activities. Not because the money is dirty, but because ultimately we have political affiliations. So am I making any sense here, guys?
Yeah,
Understand?
can I, Albert, can I?
Yeah.
Can I jump in? I think, I agree with Stan. I think what you're saying is you contract for the normal day-to-day operations. And those things that occur that are outside of those, then you have to look at those individually and see what you do. That's as general as non-specific as that can be. But I think it's important that we recognize that as the legal review that takes place on the lease that you were talking about, that it is done and protects the board. Not only does it protect, I mean, if it protects the airport, it protects the board. So I don't think you really, on the day-to-day, if you will, you have a contract with X law firm, a wide number of dollars a year. That law firm then takes care of all the general business that you propose in the scope of work. But that means that he works both for the administration and the board. He's protecting the board when he's doing a review for the administration. Is really what I'm saying. I'm not necessarily saying it as well as it should be said, but I don't think you can separate it. You can't say, well, you take care of the administrative side, and we'll take care of the board side, because it's all one interest. And but then when you step out and there's a lawsuit, there's a this, there's a that, that is over and above the general services contract that you have.
I agree, though. That's why I like as an old contract administrator. That's why I like fee for service, because you have hierarchies of fees, hierarchies of services. You know, the routine admin stuff, it doesn't protect the board or the staff. It protects the authority. That's what.
Which is everybody.
Yeah, it's everybody.
Yeah.
And that's 80% of every week law firm. It's a routine administrative, getting the business done. Then you have 20%, if you will, that one of two things. You have a special one-time project, okay, which comes up on occasion, and then you have litigation, right? Now, whoever is the contract legal service firm would be a link to whoever is going to handle court cases and actually performs them in trial litigation. Obviously, that's going to be a firm whose expertise is that. But there's going to be a linkage, there's going to be some communication, and there needs to be a fee for service with a budgetary number thrown in there. If nothing else, just for good management of the fees and also the oversight. The projects go through the board. So if there's a special project and we need legal assistance on that, well, at least the board will see it. And that can be gain or made through the general board. It doesn't mean that you can't pledge it prudently using historical information and have some cash out there for that. That may necessarily mean pull in legal advice of a specialty nature for that one particular project, fee for service, not to exceed number, and we move on. The key with not to exceed numbers is not that we don't pay after that, it's just that when you hit that 80 to 90% of not to exceed, you go low, bring back to the board or the appropriate committee and say, hey, we've got a hiccup or you've got some additional information, we move forward. So it's just good management, that's all it is, good for the administration of the limited funds that we do have.
Great.
The proposal package in front of you does not really change in any way the processes that we're doing right now and that we have done for the last 7 years. Today, when we need legal service, we send a request to the law firm. They provide that legal service as whatever project that is. If it requires the board signature, it comes to you. And you've seen on all those, it says legal review is either not required in service or approved. And this would continue that same operation. With regard to the outside the normal scope of work, what we've discovered now is that when those things come up, we have insurance policies in place. And what we do, as soon as we're notified of any litigation, we send off that notice to the insurance company, and my feeling is if we're smart, we'll take their guidance, and the insurance company is going to come back and say it is or is not covered, and if it is, we recommend you use this firm. And so I think that incorporates what I hear all of you today saying. There's really nothing new in this over what we're doing today.
One of the things when I read through this I like is we had some concerns earlier about, not sure how to phrase this, tracking of billing using codes and this sort of thing. And I thought that was wise because I know one of the committee's concerns was the financial management of any bill, no matter what it is. So I thought that, I'm not sure if that necessarily stiffened things up a little bit. Or made them a little more rigorous or what, but I thought that was good.
Yeah, it was not intended to make things, more difficult, but it was intended to make things more proceduralized. And it's automated. So, and incidentally, we've used that request system for the last 7 years. But we became lax over the last 2 or 3. But initially, everything went into the request form. It was sent off based on knowledge that we've gained and the experience that we've gained. We've made a few refinements to it, but essentially it's the same system. The only thing new in there is actual billing codes, and that's just so we've got something we can label. Okay, this work goes against this project. That's really the only new thing in there.
Yeah, I thought that followed along with the committee's concerns. Yeah. Tighten these things up a little bit, or revert back to our tightening up if that's what we're looking for. Well, I think the question really comes up under scope of work. What does the board want legal services to do, and how do they want to manage it? And I'm a little bit uncomfortable that may not be a question for this committee. That may be a question for the board itself as to define this is what we want legal services to do, and this is how we want to do it. And so your committee is tasked to do this. And we haven't really had that task. We were looking at it far narrower. So do we have any feel for that? My concern is we're outside the scope of our authority.
I would suggest that we can go forward with a recommendation for the board to consider do an amendment to the current contract situation. You know, that, I feel comfortable with a fee for service with a limited period of time, 3 years, 2 one-year extensions, and at the end of 5, you have to go back and rebid. That means the marketplace just kind of helps manage everybody, keep everybody legit, mission-free, if you will. Secondarily, scope of work, we can certainly recommend this topic to be discussed at the general board meeting, using this as a template. So,
Yeah, that might be a way to do it.
yeah, and other than that, I think we're
Because we have
getting
a lot of
outside.
work done here.
I don't want to throw it out.
Makes
Use
a lot
that,
of
use that
good
as a
framework.
discussion. Yes,
And,
but we're starting to get outside the limitations of the committee.
Well, I think another thing to be considered is, irrespective of any of this, do you want, at this point, while you're in the middle of lawsuits, to change the law? And if you don't want to change the law firm, then don't ask for it.
Well, it's a timing issue.
Well, that's right. So, I mean, you can talk about approving all kinds of forms and processes and so on, so, but I sure wouldn't send anything to anybody. I wouldn't.
Yeah, and that's the third part for that may be a discussion point that we bring forward. I think is
Because I
appropriate,
think-
because I like the idea of a contract, I like the idea of a good firm, scope of work, and then the last thing is, okay, do you want to light it off or do you want to wait? That's for the entire board to decide. It doesn't mean you can't have everything on idle, just waiting for the green light. To do due diligence in advance is always neat. It's a wonderful thing to have something ready to go. And have it pre-approved.
Later on.
Yeah, and just wait for somebody to pull the lever. So that's the 3 items, unless there's something else.
But what, would you consider tabling it until the board gives you different direction,
Now,
or?
I'd rather have the board table it. Table
I would-
the green light of putting out an RFP.
Well, okay, so send it to the board with a recommendation to be tabled.
They need,
Okay, so if
we need to
were
finalize what we want.
Yeah.
Then
Oh, that's right.
Then put it on idle for now. So
Well,
table-
send it to the
Table
board
the RFP
for-
submission.
For direction and guidance and perhaps whatever revision they want.
Yeah.
Okay, so we make a recommendation to the
So that you're
board.
ready when the time comes to actually do it. Well, that's fine. Well, that's good.
Gladys and I are both writing this down. It'd be interesting to see if we agree.
So is Andrea, I hope.
I
I can't see Andrea, but I
Andrea, write it
imagine
down
she
too.
is.
So she's tight.
They're
And
gonna be
then
2 out
it's
of 3.
also on tape, on video.
So we make a recommendation to the board that we use this framework in a I'm always at a loss for words, but we use this framework to look at the request for services, fee for services kind of environment.
We're going to, we want to ensure, we want the board's input to define the need.
Yeah, that was going to be the second part of it. I
Oh,
think we need
okay.
to make the recommendation to the board that they look at the scope of work and they make sure that
Yeah.
that we know what the board wants.
Yeah,
Because I think that's one area where it's been, to me, in my mind, it's gotten a little fuzzy over the last little while. Well, what are we asking the lawyer to do? You know, are we, I mean, it's almost like, yeah, whatever you need.
I mean, you could
So I think we need to tighten up that. We need to ask the board to more carefully define the scope of work between the board's concerns, the administration's concerns.
I would recommend that any future legal services contract be in a fee-for-service with a time limit format.
Sure.
Okay, so we use the present framework to
I know,
develop a
I'm sure.
fee-for-service legal.
I think we should also bring forward the selection process that's being, that's documented here, seems to fill the need. And does the board violate that selection process?
Yeah, that's why I said use this present framework, and I was thinking of this stuff specifically that the staff has done, because it looks to me like.
You don't mean as a final product? But
I don't mean it's not,
Okay.
but I mean, use this framework, we've got a lot of stuff done.
Boy,
So
Yeah.
we might say, oh, no, we want to change this item and that
Yeah.
item, we want to put more points here, whatever it is. But this looks to me like it's inclusive of everything that would be necessary to get that done. So, but, okay, so I take it we are in agreement that we are, we can make a recommendation back to the board.
What's the third item? I thought you were going to have the third item as, when does the green light go up? Well, right now,
That'll,
Bill.
I would say that's the board's decision.
yeah.
Yeah. So they need to understand that right now, our collective
Well,
opinion
the
is.
third item
this
is that we punt
Yeah.
the timing of it to the board.
Yeah, well, I think not only the timing of it, but I think a lot of what we would like to accomplish is outside of our ability to do it.
Yeah, it's, the timing of it is.
Okay, that's what our recommendation will be to the board at the next board meeting.
Can you kind of go over that so I know?
Okay, Gladys, did you write down my recommendations more carefully than I did? Let's see if we agree.
Okay. The recommendation that you stated was for direction and guidance on the scope of work as provided in the RFP for professional service, as well as a consideration for fee for service with a determined amount of years for contract services, such as 3 years with a 2 one-year option.
Okay? Does that sound right?
Yep.
Okay, sounds like what I thought you said.
Was that?
I don't have it all in one sentence.
Okay. Did that capture everything that you wanted?
I think so. Do we have any public comment? Hi, Larry. I can't hardly twist around that far. Okay. Nothing else before this committee. Stand adjourned.